Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sprite. This is Mars here. I'm here with my boys, Cal and the other guy, Petey. Hey, say what's up, gents.
What's going
Ready
on?
to rock.
Yeah, we ready to rock. I'm saying here, one of the reasons I'm wearing the Wu-Tang Clan t-shirt is because it actually sells on a regular basis. And this what Petey has up here is the sales of graphic novels between what is it, September to October of some of the top selling graphic novels that we have out here. And we see what DC's been doing. They've been killing it. Abs- the Zoo, which is a new comic with the new Absolute Batman. We also see old editions such as Batman Hush, which they've made it into compact editions and it's been selling. I mean, Hush has been out forever. You know, we're seeing those Batman Arkham stuff that continues. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They've done the Ronin stuff how many times? Companies are in the business of making money, and so therefore they're
No,
putting out.
that
So,
is the
so
last. That is the last Ronin. That has
I'm trying.
been out. It was what was that 3 or 4 years ago when it came out. That means it's still in print and number three. That's what that means. These Johnny Come Latelys that you're putting up here, the Batman Absolute, you can't compare it to the Turtles. So that's a correction. That's been out for who knows how long. It's still in the top 10 or top
Batman
20.
Long Bottom. We have Civil War, Marvel Premium Collection. We have
Isn't that
DC
a
the new.
new? We're not talking about new things that just got into print and they pointed out. We
What is
have
your
Yeah,
consideration?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's right. If you just stick to the stuff that, it's all there, just stick to that stuff. It all supports your point. When you look at, New Frontier, Long Halloween, Kingdom Come, Superman Birthright, Superman Batman, that's from the very first series with Jeff Loeb, All Stars Superman, all of that supports your point. Watchmen, just stick with that.
Thank you, Cal. Okay, thank you. I have a reasonable person here. Huh?
I'm just saying the new hotness of the compact edition, what they're putting out, obviously is going to be in the top 20, right? So it's not like the absolute edition of any of these sort of things still being in there, which is what, even though possibly the team, the hardcover, I'm not sure which printing that is, if it compares to what printing it is, but it's still something that's staying in print as is, right? Or
That's right.
the newer
New
one
hotness
is two, right? Is the last Ronin
versus
two was
old and busted.
Hmm?
I mean, we see
I said
Batman
new
is
hotness versus old and busted.
We have the in number 20 is Batman Long Halloween, which is not a compact series, so it's not a new print edition. Possibly, could be older than this other stuff. My
and
only
number.
thing is saying that for your compact series, I when we first talked about this, to not have it be something that was a very finite thing. So when it's on the shelf with the other stuff, it has a long line of books to go along with. Because a lot of people have bought into the Watchmen thing. Mark Miller was saying, "Hey, do the short run and get out." So you get the Hush, you get that instead of saying what was a longer run. Maybe obviously these things are more popular and it's easy to republish and then to resell those. But at the same time, I was saying for the compact line, you want to try to get to the manga audience if you can. That's what you're trying to do, being compact and being smaller. To say what would be a long run of stuff so it could be on that fill up that sort of shelf. That was my struggle with it. I really didn't want Arkham Asylum to be up there because at the same time, Grant Morrison has disowned that one in one of his things, noticing what Alan Moore was doing was too similar to the Super Folks. So he kind of said he didn't have to do that kind of Batman, But DC it big for that. It was 2 point something mil that that hardcover. So obviously it's something DC wise makes sense for them to reprint, So and look, it's number 7 here. But since we're going here and we're going at this battle and Mars doesn't have anything to say, I'm just saying DC historically has decided we're going to take our highest price stuff, our Hush is absolute, we're going to take our Batman Long Halloween, our Year One, and we're going to put our some things which are Sandman, which sells well, and all our Vertigo into hardcover into the bookstores. And that's why I've always hated most of their trade format because it was always whatever was their most critically acclaimed stuff and let's stay away from anything that not anything. I'm not sorry, that's not anything, but they would be like something that doesn't have a high profile thing as far as critical success. They'll be like, let's pull this away. Something that's close to these stories that sold well, they'll be like, no. And obviously, people will be like certain things like, you know, he's like, let's do the classic Wonder Man, one no, the classic stuff, which I agree. I would like to see the Darwin Cook Catwoman stuff in print at the same time. But at the same time, if you're Marvel was running DC. They were like, we're reprinting the Jim Ballant Catwomans because these things sold. We sold the billions of these. When DC was staying with their critical acclaim stuff and their Vertigo stuff, which was way lower than that stuff, Marvel was like, we're reprinting everything, and we don't care. Anything that has any interest, we're reprinting it. So right now we see in this overall, Marvel has a couple new hotness, which is Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Wolverine, and then they have Civil War in there. So it's interesting. I think.
Yeah, it's I mean, you come back. It's that they are now getting more. I think the ICB has an article about the fact that younger people are coming into the marketplace again, right? Because if you go further down, you have all these mangas that people were buying, and now the count back edition is out there to try to capture them, to capture those people who are reading those manga and tell exciting stories, popular stories that people can look and relate to. You know, yes, there are other stuff that is happening. We're not denying that, but the whole point is that you have to try, and I think ICB, again, where we're getting this article from, and BookScan and Circana, where the ones who are actually getting these numbers from like the Barnes and Nobles and stores all around, they're showing us that younger people are starting to get into it because of these complete stories that they're seeing right now. And I think that's the fantastic thing. The
Are
market
you
isn't
sure they're
sustainable.
younger people? Are you? Is this article saying they're younger people in there? That's the only thing I'll push back on.
TV2 has an article what they were doing during the NYCC, where they were talking about they're talking about the market. I can shoot you the article. They have an article in here too talking about that
Okay.
and how it's the impact of the fact that DC has been more successful. The number one comic, one of the biggest selling comics of the year during the summer was um, Invincible's Battle Beast. I mean, they sold over nearly 400,000 copies, and that's just like wow. I think that's also the story, the art, you know, that people wanted to see. There's stuff out there, and the fact that you're getting stuff out to people, particularly the younger, um, you're trying to reach the younger people. That's even better. They're also saying that
Good that younger people are coming in. I don't know if Battle Beast is the best example though, because Invincible has such a head of steam at this point.
it's
But
part of
that but that might now that I'm saying it, that might actually tie in because Invincible is popular across the board with young people as well. So that's driving them in because my sales on Invincible have been like steady and the two type things I love with comic book sales, steady and high.
see, there it is.
I think.
Asking price $60. I get $60. I say, you know what? This is my last copy. I'm gonna raise the price. I'm gonna triple it, quadruple it. Let's put it up, see what happens. $300. I get $300. That's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So if young people are coming in and I'm getting $300 a copy, that's what we're talking about.
and this is what they're saying in that article. Because the absolute, the ultimate, even the Energon universes are bringing new customers into the store. I know we knocked the absolute initially, and then we laughed about the ultimates, but these are bringing people through the door. They're
I
bringing
don't. I thought we were fair. I thought we were pretty much fair with the absolute universe and the ultimate universe. I don't remember us knocking it. I do remember, at least for myself, saying that the absolute universe was going to live or die based on the success of absolute Batman. And as we can see, absolute Batman is a runaway success. So I
and
thought we were pretty fair to it.
I didn't think Absolute Woman would catch, and Absolute Woman win the Eisner, and it's selling steady. I go to the comic store, the hardcover of the Wonder Woman run. I am shocked, sold out. I was surprised. I did not think it was going to sell that well, and it did. the hardcover trade.
I need the larger Wonder Woman for that art, but I'm glad to hear it. But at the same time, I need to see to see what's going on. I need to see what the you know, I need this all pushed together into one globule and not. If you look at it, I was scanning through this whole thing. We have the comic superheroes, then we have the author graphic novels, which has Invincible on there, and a bunch of other things. Some titles I hadn't heard of outside of Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, and then we also have the manga stuff. I would really want to see where the actual sort of thing is because it's funny because I think New York Times had their list of books, or I don't know. I guess it had to be graphic novels. And when the when the Batman Odyssey graphic novel was out, it was in the what's the name top 10, and Neil Adams was able to say, "Hey, look, see," he said, "Don't listen to the people tearing about it." Like I made the New York Times top 10, so I would really like to see that this is really doing everything you say. What is the top graphic novels, just in general, as far as the bookstores? But this is not to just say it, but it would be a clear view to say comic books are back. We're doing it. We're finally doing it. So
Yeah, they're finally doing it, man. They're finally doing it, but it's good. I think anything that brings people in. If you look at the article that I posted in the chat, they'll say, well, showing you that they call it the ungraying of the comic book market, and probably, when I say younger, it could be 5 or 10 years younger than the average comic book reader. The fact of the matter is that they're saying they're getting away from some of those. They're going to more, there are more people reading comics and collecting from what people basically. And it's the I see to I think they was the battle beast. You know, Gen Z are starting to come back to the comic book market.
just my struggle is you put out for your digest market, you put out your first things, which was all of it's everything that they've always reprinted. What do you do for your next one?
Sorry.
What do you do for your next set of DC compact comics? Just re-release them again and say, "Here's a new edition of this stuff."
Yes,
They do. They have
That's
that's
my
what you do.
problem.
Yes.
That's my problem.
there's a lot of stories in DC that they can mine and put them into the compact format.
They ain't doing all that.
Have tons of.
There
They
you
ain't
go.
doing that. They ain't doing that. Hold on. Let me see. Is it here? Let me see. Hold on. I want to see quickly if this book is here. Is this book is here? I don't see it. No. What we're gonna get next? We're gonna get for tomorrow. That's what we're gonna get that. It's like, hey kids, did you like All Star Superman? Okay, now we're gonna give you All Star Superman Compacts Deluxe Edition.
Yeah, the point is, if this is what takes to get other people in, younger people into the stores and support them, I'm all for it. You
And to
know,
be fair, they're not. This is really not where you're supposed to be at as a comic book reader. Okay, because I still remember coming in. I was reading comics. I was reading actual comics off the stands. Marvel still had those small paperback color
Hmm.
color trades, and I was able to read some stories in that. But for the most part, I was reading the regular issues. I might have got my hands on some back issues, the reprint line that Marvel was, Marvel between Marvel Tales, Marvel Superheroes, Amazing Adventure, all that type of stuff you could get with that. But this is, and I give them credit because they're trying to make an appeal to them in manga form. Like, okay, check this out. We can reprint because there's no way that we're doing new issues like this. Not forget that. That's just not going to happen. But check this out in this particular form. But you want them to go over there and read the regular stuff that comes out. The 8.5 by 11 4 color floppy. That's what you want them to be. How can you get them there? You need to take some of the stuff that you did over here. We don't need cardstock paper. Okay, I'm not saying do newsprint. I would like better than that, but if you can lower the paper quality somewhat, save costs there, and get some kids back in because you actually have more paper to tell more stories. So if you cut back on some of those particular costs, stop trying to do the magazine slick things, you'll be okay. Because you can see right here, if you're trying to bring the younger people in, they're not concerned about that part of the presentation because they're not getting it in this form. They surely aren't. It's cheaper to do this at the end of the day. Less pay, it's going to be like less cost because it's a reprint overall and it's not even standard format. Take a page from this. We don't, for some of the stuff, yeah, for like one of the high-end books or a high-end story, the same way they used to do with DC when we had the prestige format books, okay, we had better paper quality, more pages, more stiff cover, no problem. But for the other stuff, no, this is, to be honest, it needs to go back where comic books can once again be considered disposable, where not everybody's hanging on to every single issue, putting it in a bag, and hey, 20 years from now, college tuition, baby. Like, no, this is just, hey, this was a good issue. If I hang on to it, cool. If I don't hang on to it, no. But that's a big way to get younger people back in because none of these guys are hanging on to their mangas like, hey, this is going to be worth money in the future. They read it, gets transferred to somebody else. Maybe they see it again, maybe they don't.
Good point. Good point, Cal. So now we have PD on the ropes. We did a tag team. We knocked them down.
We have me on the ropes. In what sense?
Yeah, I
What
wasn't.
world?
I wasn't attacking. I wasn't attacking PD.
What world are we talking about now?
I agree. We're gonna see four tomorrow before we see anything.
We were tag teaming. I'm jumping off
Oh, yeah, that's what they'll do. They'll do four tomorrow, part one.
That's
That's what we'll get.
I mean, the thing is once this thing sells, once those books sell out, we put those same things up there. Whereas Marvel is, I mean, the thing is, the hard part is since the trade thing became a thing in the '90s, really, you always felt like DC was like we are doing what we wanted, these things that we know that could possibly stay on the shelves forever. And there was a period where the stuff from the Silver Age, outside of the what's it, those archive books that they were doing, weren't in the format that you could get or afford for besides people who had the real money. And I don't know that the DC. I think I don't have them anymore. I got the omnibus that they did of the Challengers, which is a more of a comic book kind of paper format. But it felt like it took them. Marvel did the phone book thing for a while, and I think by the 2000 DC finally did the phone books for a lot of their Silver Age stuff, where you could pick up something with a decent price with black and white, but something that is more costly than the comic book, but not as pricey as those archive editions. So, but for a while, you could only really get those things up. Besides the Chronicles, which were the golden age comic books. So, in my mind, I think DC has a lot of content, and there was always the fear if they realized they could reprint everything. Marvel's just like, no, you can see it here. Marvel's books that they're pushing up, because they also have other people doing trades for them. They got the Ultimate out there. The two Ultimate things are re-released in trades, and they're making money off of that. That's all. This is free money. Doesn't cost that much to reprint them. So it's all free money to DC. So it's but at the same time, to try to cultivate the audience, I just think they should kind of look and see what else could they do, and what could they put where the manga people could pick up and say, oh, here's a whole line of books. Not here's a whole line of different separate books. But maybe that would be the format, and then they would just replenish it and just keep putting the new thing up. Okay, putting that new version of it up. Here's another Court of Owls. Oh, we got another banger, a Tom King thing. We're putting that up there. But that would be the next time. We got whatever Tom King's doing, put all that stuff up in the compact thing. All the new hotness.
Yeah, but the good thing is that those are gateways, right? For some people who haven't read some stuff. I mean, we've
What is a
read them.
gateway?
So those gateways, they read that and they're like, "Wow, I'm interested." Either they'll go buy
Arkham
another.
Asylum is a gateway.
I'm saying they may buy that as a gateway and then move on to other stuff. Why they bought? They read.
It is a gateway, but it's a gateway not for kids. That's a gateway for to be that's the gateway for the person who thinks comic books are stupid, and then they read Arkham Asylum. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you can actually do something with this. Then they read Watchmen, and then they don't read anything else after that.
Yeah, that's.
Story instead of reading a monthly periodic, a monthly story. They have an entire story in one thing, and I think
What
that's
was the first comic you read?
the first comic I read.
That
Yeah,
you
what was the first
remember.
comic you read?
I think the first thing I read was I think it's those golden books. They had the comics and they're telling the stories of the like Sinbad the Sailor or the Count of Monte Cristo. Those are the ones I remember reading
Why'd
first
you read it?
because I was interested in the Count of Monte Cristo. I wanted to see more about it,
That's your gateway.
and that's what got me reading.
Remember,
And
yeah, because remember, it wasn't necessary. I mean, especially at the time when we were reading, because there was like a lot more proliferation in comics. It wasn't necessarily the character; it was the art form.
Hmm.
It was the sequential art, it's that particular medium, the story being rendered. That's what initially got you into it. With these guys, I mean, oh man, that was such a different time. You could literally get classic stories in comic book form. Now you got to go over, you got to actually go hunt for that stuff as a back issue right now. But for these guys, the gateway is, going to be different. I agree. But if it doesn't get you, you went from reading those types of comic books with classic stories to superheroes and probably other stuff. This right over here needs to do the same thing for them. So if it's a gateway and it's gonna be a legitimate gateway, it has to lead, to where they want them to go. If that's the case. Because right now I'm looking at the numbers over here in terms of where DC's at, in terms of the amount of books they have on this list. And what I would hope is that they don't say, okay, great, we're killing it over here with the trades. Let's keep them here. Like, no, lead them back, get them back over in there. Get them back over in there with with the weekly and the monthly stuff.
Yeah.
This is for stuff that you can't. To be honest, this is for stuff you're not going to get your hands on. Okay, this is stuff that's going to be too expensive for you to get your hands on. But this is more affordable. This is great. Take you with you on a short plane ride or what have you. This is gonna work. But outside of that, if it's not a gateway that's leading them back to all of that source material, all those comics that are coming out regularly, then this is just more trade game at the end of the day, like this like started in the 90s. And then the comic books started to shape the stories to meet trade paperback form. So we're going to get 6-issue storylines so we can always release it in a trade, that type of nonsense.
And to go to your, I mean, kind of more so the gateway for DC, it feels like, I mean, it feels like, in my opinion, like the Superman Batman, which is probably the Jeff Loeb, Ed McGuinness type of thing, which is kind of really like the big sort of like slam bam type of comic books, and then maybe Hush, that sort of thing. And even though I guess you can say the Absolute Wonder Woman kind of has, but that's a little more so your comic books, but it does have a thing. But anyway, it's tough. It's just what I would wish they would kind of do, and I always kind of struggled in the going to bookstores and seeing DC's thing and it being like their top of the line stuff and then their Vertigo stuff. And then of course there's Vertigo stuff that like, Why the Last Man, Sandman, or what else? They probably have trades of the Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison that would be put out there and saying, yeah, this is the higher end of what people go back to. But then you also have some of the other weirder stuff where they're like, let's see if this has an audience because we did the monthly out and nothing happened. But we put this trade of this other Vertigo series. See if there's anybody out there on the bookshelves. It's just like, no, put. There's other stuff you can put on the bookshelf and make money because Marvel is just saying, oh yeah, there's a trade market. Everything we do. So except for the people we don't like, we're gonna not put them out until we have to. Oh, they're putting reprints of this person out. We got those guys too. We're putting them out.
Yeah, they're like, wait, what? We're running out of stuff. Now put out trades of Stan's soapbox. Put that out.
Yeah, they would. Marvel. everything.
Put
Marvel.
out put out trades of the letter columns. Put that out.
They would be the Jim Ballard Catwoman would be the first thing from Marvel. Like, yes, we're putting
Like,
this
hey,
out.
remember those ads? Remember those ads in the book from back in the day? Put those out. Put it out. Put it all out.
Hey,
No, it is funny because DC is definitely more selective about what they're going to reprint overall. What I have found with DC is that usually everything gets one printing. Because some stuff when I look for it, I still sell. So there's certain trade paperbacks when I get my hands on it. I'm surprised that it's this expensive. Or I was like, this was actually a book. It was a comic book. I had no idea until I saw the trade paperback. But it'll be like a series say like Sovereign 7, and it got a trade. It did get a trade. And most of the time, they will collect all of those particular issues. But then it leads into what you said. We're never going to see this again. Now, I can't make too much of an argument for Sovereign 7. That there's a big demand for people like, hey, we need a new printing, Sovereign 7, that type of stuff. But you may get something where it was like Salvation Run, and that was in a trade paperback, and that was people liked it, for whatever reason, people liked it, and they prefer it in trade form than they do in regular issues. But even though there is, a readership and a bit of a demand that I think they hedge their bet because they're like, look, we do another printing, it's probably not, we're probably not going to really make any money on this. We don't feel that there's enough demand to justify a second printing. Do people want it? Yes, but we need more than enough people who want it. We don't want to like, do this print run and we got stuff on the shelves. Not going to happen. With the other stuff, doesn't matter. There's always an interest in it at the end of the day.
Well,
So
keep going.
they do, sorry, you will get, you do get that, you do get the trade. They do tend to give most books over, maybe like 90-95% of the stuff that gets published does get a trade printing. It's just the reprint where it's like, no, we're going to be very, very selective about that. That's when it becomes very hoity-toity. No, no, no. If it's not Jim Lee art, this person writing, so on and so forth, you're never seeing this again. Hope you got that first printing. Hope you got that one.
Well, you also look. I'm looking at it. Say stuff like for obviously V for Vendetta is gonna be reprinted just like Watchmen, Dark Knight. But you have I guess with Preacher, and then obviously Sandman. Like those things kind of feel like they would make themselves would kind of stay on the shelves with for DC, even though some of them don't sell as much as it. But you have, and then of course I think they're showing the Losers, which of course was made into a movie, but that's a short run. But at the same time, they're kind of like, hey, let's do these things and see if they have a mark. Let's see if they have an audience. When they should ultimately be deciding that for everything. Everything should be like looking around and saying, well, this didn't do that well. Let's see if it has an audience. And I understand critically acclaimed stuff, yeah, that works. But I don't know. At the same time, what else are you going to do? If it's critically acclaimed, it makes total sense to make that thing. But I just felt it was too much Vertigo, in my opinion. And I'm like, this for Vertigo up here? The whole Vertigo section? Good Lord. That's more than just testing to see if it'll find the audience. This is like, this is overkill.
I mean, I'm with you on the whole thing, but I know the readership and the Vertigo guys will come. It's like the Vertigo guys may come out for the comic, but they will definitely come out for the trade. They'll come out for the trade. They'll come out for the absolute edition. They just do it. And then so they keep doing it. They're like, nope, these things are going to stay in perpetual. It's almost like the regular comic is a formality. It's like we got to put 6 issues out of this so we can get to a trade, but they keep doing it. So these are the guys we know. This audience, they're going to always come out for the trade. Okay for the regular comic guys, superhero dudes? Who's coming out for these trades? Nah, not so much. So we do it that way. I mean, what's the last absolute edition you bought?
I don't know. Probably it's either. It probably was a Dark Knight when they put the Dark Knight, the larger Dark Knight on.
The one from what was that issue? It was like what was that? 2018?
No, not the new one. Just the original. It also has, I guess, Strikes Again. It was there. I think it's because I have
Oh
Watchmen.
yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
know the one. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I know that one. Yeah, because
Yeah,
the last
you trying to about to throw me over the put the noose around me and toss me off the deck.
no,
Well, for
I'm trying
me
to give.
having
I'm
the
just.
Dark Knight, the Master Race, that's what you're trying to say I had? I definitely didn't have
No,
the
no,
Master
no, no.
Race.
But
You
with
trying to
Dark Knight,
catch me
no, because
out
like
there?
with
Okay.
Dark Knight, Absolute Superman, that type of stuff, you got to be careful because those things are in perpetual print. So the one that you have, I have too. It's on my books, it's on my bookshelf right now. And so those things come out, but again, that's what they're saying. They're like, we're going to put in the absolute. What are you guys looking for? Okay, I would love to have Dark Knight and the other one together, this type of format. Am I going to read through it? No, I would just like to own it, stay over here, maybe even break it out of the plastic. Maybe I read it, maybe I don't. But that's where these guys are heading. Whereas you do something else like trying to think of something DC did. Like, oh, they're doing DCKO. Man, if they did DCKO Absolute Edition, I'd be like, yay, good luck. You're not getting this money. No, that's a weekly or monthly thing. That's some rag top stuff. You're supposed to get my money that way. Don't expect to get it this way. Not going to happen. So as much I'm trying to be as even as possible because as much as I don't disagree, we still have, and I don't mean this in a closed-minded way, we still have our biases when it comes to what we're going to get in particular form. I want this particular story in this high-end format. This particular story, if it ever gets there, I could care less. And they're making a judgment call based on our particular practices in terms of how we want these stories rendered, in what format, whether or not we're going to pony up the money for the high-end stuff. Because remember, remember that I showed you that Absolute Edition's coming out for the Death of Superman, and
Um,
they made the case look like a tombstone.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so they know. I mean, do you know how much that book is going for right now? And it's a pre-order,
How much?
$150.
Yeah. Well, that's the
150
thing.
bucks.
I don't
It's
trust.
sold out.
Well,
It's
listen.
sold out. So how much do you think I'm going to be selling it for?
Well, a lot. Well, but that's the thing. That's why I don't trust DC because they, after, even though it wasn't announced with all the other stuff, they're doing a Man of Steel Absolute Edition, I don't trust them to actually recolor it because the last printing that they did in
Man,
the what was it? They did a printing where they did stuff in the late '90s, which had the '80 the '86 Superman run, which was with the covers by Jerry Ordway, and the colors in that were terrible. And then they just did an omnibus, like it's almost like they do it in, I don't know, 10-year intervals, or maybe it was 15 years, a gap between that last one, which had terrible color, like worse than the initial color that they did. Now we're getting absolute. I don't trust I know DC gives they let Frank Miller look over his Dark Knight and figure the color with Lynn Barrel, and same with the Ronin Absolute Edition. If DC puts out a Man of Steel with that bad color from the original printing, I might have to, I might have to disown them
I don't
altogether.
know. Man of Steel, that they're just doing the 6 issue limited series, or is there
With
going to be
some
more
other
more
stuff,
of it?
no, with I think some exclusive stuff. Not, I don't think just the 6 issues and some exclusive stuff in it.
I'm probably going to end up picking that up, but I am very, very cautious as to what the end product is going to be. I mean, because I still love the art, but I don't know if it meets that. I don't know because I've seen what they do. They did like a hardcover edition. It was like four volumes, Man of Steel, and it's like they didn't know what to do with the art. They didn't know what to do in terms of the gutter space, the coloring.
No, it's
It just didn't seem like they
embarrassing.
knew what to do with it at the end of the day. And
It's
now they're going to do this absolute. Go ahead. I didn't hear you.
no, no, no. I'm just agreeing. All I'm doing is agreeing. So now
Yeah,
you
come
say
now. I'm
now
like,
they're
all
gonna
right,
do
you're
the
going to do
absolute.
this. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right. I don't know if that's the right format. I really don't know if that's the right format for that art, especially after seeing how they've rendered. I mean, trade paperback has been fine, but every time it's supposed to get bigger, like even something like a oversized hardcover, it hasn't. It just hasn't been good. There's something being lost there in the in the jump from one size to the other, one format to the other. I'm really, yeah. I'm at this point, I'm skeptical that they're going to do a good job with this because
I'm
the I haven't seen I haven't seen them do it. I just haven't seen them do it.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I don't think the problem is also if you look at the original printing in the comic books, like some of the green and the blast from Krypton is just a
Hmm.
bad hold. Like you could see, just not. And who's it? Oh man, the hair on Bizarro is just a blotch. It's like the knot with the, it doesn't match into the hair. It's just kind of like it's like some of the it's like they almost should have just had was it Andy and they had the Marvel people come over and color and show them how to color because it was just like and someone go over there and say how do we make this into the it's almost turning into like the Neil Adams Batman Illustrated but in even a worse way where Neil Adams took it and said I'm doing computer color and I'm destroying all this revolutionary stuff that you did in the late 60s, early 70s. Like it was revolutionary. And he took them and said, no, these need to be recolored for a better edition. It's just like, you ruined all the great stuff that you did. And when this is like, no, DC just like, yeah, we don't care. It's not
Pretty
something
much.
we don't care about the initial printing, and then when we reprint it, and it's like the man still has like a good four, at least four printings of the trades and different styles of the trades, and it's just like, ugh, the color. How can the color be worse than the comic book color? And then you see those omnibuses. Some of the background. His purple. His just a purple background with Superman. Oh, sometimes the flesh color of Lois and Lucy Lane is the same as the background. I'm like, what is going on? It's like I
No,
can't.
I don't. I think for whatever reason, I'm not saying necessarily it was just this series, but the whatever they were doing in terms of art, the coloring, this is not something that translates well to a lot of the processes that they're using, to make these trades or to make these oversized hardcovers and the absolute editions, which is saying a lot because I've seen the absolute for say like New Gods volumes 1 and 2, fine, perfectly fine. But this, particular series, for whatever reason, no. I haven't seen that happen. So, but we'll see. Maybe it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the tail time. I don't know what it is, but just haven't seen it. I'm not sure why they're doing this except for the fact that there's name recognition when it comes to this particular series. And there's probably some people out there, yeah, we want an absolute series. I'm like, have you seen what they've done so far?
That would be the horror to say that they didn't come in and look at it the same way I think Marvel did towards just the comic printing of the what was it the early stuff he was doing with Namor, which started out and they said, okay, we got a handle on this dual shade, and they say, no, we don't have it. Like issues later, we don't have it. So these things that have dual shade in the black in the background is just black in the comic book, and then you see actually the Marvel reprinting of the She-Hulk and Namor, which has and DC did. The other thing is DC had no problem with any of the Byrne dual shade stuff. So they had the Batman 3D, which they reprinted in the Byrne whatever that trade is called, and it's like that stuff looks fine. And they also have OMAC, which the paper, even though the paper was a little bit different than some of the paper they already have, the edition looks fine. Where Marvel is just like, we're not doing any tests. We're just gonna put it in the printer. Wait a second, the other two issues worked out fine. Yeah, we're gonna put less. We need to put less thought into this. But then when they reprinted it recently, even though it's the kind of shiny paper, it still works better. But I also would say that DC in their, I commend DC on their facsimiles and their one with their white cover facsimiles, because even though they're utilizing some books, like because George Perez, we've seen his stuff in Mondo paper and comic paper, and the Wonder Woman stuff was very dull in the printing. So I don't think they made it too much better, but at least the paper is good. And Marvel is like, we're just doing shiny paper for these facsimiles. We don't care. We're just gonna reprint. People like facsimiles. Still only $3.99, or still only $4.99 on shiny paper. So I commend DC on at least doing okay paper for their print, and I think they should think about that when they, do some of the books that don't, as you were saying, some books that can't, go to it like whereas I think the Challengers looked all right because it was done by Wally Wood, so a lot of that stuff translated, but I think the newsprint version of the omnibus works better. Same with the New Gods for me. The newsprint versions of them really look really good to me. So, that's something they could think about. But I think still the colors of the original Man of Steel, they were really bad. So it's something I would think they would try to go back to. And they made some money on it, so it's not like they're hurting themselves. They had to having to go back to it, but at the same time, if they, I guess the importance of a book like Ronin, where they were sitting at the printer the whole time and they had the initial sales, and then as Miller says towards the end, it was going down, and all the stuff they did with Neil Adams, with all the was it Jack Adler, where they kind of worked at the color and doing a lot of cool stuff, and Neil Adams helped DC get a lot of different colors. At times they've shown they know what they're doing as far as in the color thing, and at the same time Marvel too, which is different colorists like Glynis Oliver. I think it's Andy. I forget his last name starts with a Y. There's so many great colorists that those things. It would be interesting to see someone really do a good job of this stuff and work with the newsprint, the artists who work in newsprint. Because Neil Adams is another one who's a newsprint guy that didn't always translate to the shiny colors. So and I would be like getting edition and being like, no, how can they do this? So anyway, that's my thing. And at the same time, I think you're trying to do it to the manga. I can't. We can argue about. I've argued about it too many times. I don't like the fact that they went to their new hotness, and I can't stop them. I can't stop them, and Arkham Asylum being number one is just criminal, and it's not easy. It's like taking Bill Sienkiewicz and going even further than that, like
Okay.
electrostasis and going even further, and that's your number one. What's the
Okay.
name? Stop being a HA. Stop being a HA, Batman. And grabbing us from behind. I can't do it. I don't want that one to be number one. Come on, man.
So thank you very much. I think our people point of view quite. I wouldn't say me, but definitely give you a point of view. Hey, if you like what you hear, give us a comment, subscribe, spin a rack.
Oh,
We are out of here. If I can find the stop button.